Hey y'all, welcome back to Andy's Little Homestead. Today we're going to talk about probably the least pleasant aspect of running a small farm, and that is putting down poor, innocent, adorable little animals. Now, if y'all will excuse me for 1 second, I need to make my sad face for the thumbnail. Though this video is very serious, I may occasionally use humor throughout it because I'm mentally ill. It does not mean that I'm a psychopath, but you can be sure that I'm going to piss off Sarah McLachlan and the rest of the PETA crowd. But feelings need to be taken aside in the subject of putting down animals because unfortunately, if you have them, it is a very necessary part of the entire process. Not fun, not pleasant, but definitely necessary. So up until recently, we had two pigs. We have Violet and Little Pig. They're supposed to be our breeders. Little Pig got a wild hair up his ass, tried to venture into the horse pasture, dug his way through and promptly got stomped. Because horses are the real psychopaths, let's just be honest. Poor old Little Pig got his back broke, and unfortunately that left exactly one option. We had to put him down. Now that in and of itself will immediately prompt the response, well, Andy, if your pens were secure enough, then the animals wouldn't get out. That kind of attitude only comes from people who don't have livestock or haven't had livestock for very long. Sometimes they get out. It's just an unfortunate circumstance. So just know that sooner or later, if you do have any livestock, this is a process that you're going to have to go through, and I might as well talk you through it. Now, on the technical side, it's fairly easy, and it's about the same for most mammals. You draw an X from one ear, their ears are up here, to the opposite eye, right there between the two. Just a little 22 round and his lights out. And if you find yourself in a position where you just can't quite bring yourself to look in the eye of the animal that you're about to send on to the afterlife, you can draw a line from behind the ear to the opposite eye and have the same effect. Now, I know this sounds cold, but it's really just about doing it efficiently and cleanly and in a way that the animal does not suffer. But more than that is kind of the psychological side of it, because if you're not a psychopath, and I'm not, it can kind of bother you a little bit. The reality is that death is coming for all of us, animal, human, whatever. And the way that animals die in the wild, it's not pleasant. They're constantly concerned about predators, probably got anxiety through the roof, can't take Valium or nothing. If they do get attacked by a predator, depending on what the predator is, they may just start eating. Big cats go in for the kill, but bears just line up to the buffet and start. And if somehow they do end up making it to old age, they become too weak to keep up with whatever herd they're in. They become too weak to eat or drink, and they starve to death. That is a terrible way to go. The goal of putting down an animal is to eliminate suffering. That's it. And it may not be the thing that you want to do, but as the owner of an animal, it is your responsibility to make that call when it needs to happen. Well, Andy, why don't you just call a vet? You could call a vet and they'll provide them a nice dose of whatever. They'll inject them and they'll go off to sleep. Yeah, that's fine. That's an option if that's the thing that you want to do. But ultimately, all you're doing is spending your money to outsource the killing to somebody else. There is no moral high ground with it. And in fact, I don't necessarily think that it is better. I mean, if I'd have taken Little Pig onto the vet, barring an emergency surgery of some kind or a custom-made piggy wheelchair, he wasn't going to make it and the end result was going to be the same. But for me to do that, I'd have to pick him up, I'd have to move him, which he already freaks out about. Only half of him was working. I'd have to take him in a vehicle that he's unfamiliar with, full of anxiety and stress and everything else, and then let him get poked and prodded at until ultimately he had to get put down anyway. The alternative was exactly what I did. We got him out of the pen, gave him a handful of corn, gave him some scratches behind the ears because he loves that, got him calmed down, and then in 1 second, the lights were out. As a small-time farmer, sometimes you need to take the burden off of the livestock in your care. Carry that psychological burden yourself because it's the right thing to do. Nobody's going to say it, so I'm going to say it. For whatever reason, the mammals, the goats or pigs or whatever, they're a little bit more difficult than the poultry. We internalize the idea that if it doesn't have eyebrows, it doesn't have feelings. Or maybe it's just old Walt Disney who gave us this way of anthropomorphizing. I believe that's the word. Making it think about animals in human terms. You know what I mean. We got a way of doing that. But with the pigs, it's pretty tough. They're as intelligent as dogs, and, you know, if you handle them, they're kind of friendly. It's really a weird dynamic. Our piggies come right up and talk to us, so you got to put a bullet in that. That can be a problem. But sometimes that's exactly what needs to be done. You ain't got to be happy about it. You just got to do what's right. There was recently some congressman, governor, some lady from, I think it was South Dakota, who got like dragged over the coals over the fact that they had put down a dog themselves. And I could see that as being like the peak, worst, most difficult thing to put down. But once again, how much does that dog love going to the vet? How much does that dog love being in a room they're unfamiliar with people they're unfamiliar with, just for the sake of keeping your personal conscience clear for not being the one to administer the lethal dose of either chemicals or lead? Or the alternative to that is that you go hang out with your best friend for a little bit, give him a nice steak, and facilitate him falling asleep all at once. I understand if people don't want to do that. I'm not telling anybody how to live their lives, but I promise you cruelty is the last thing that is. I ain't saying that I've done it, but I'm saying that I understand. The fact is, our animals have great lives, and then sometimes they have one bad moment. We feed them, we love on them, we take care of them. Early on, I said not to name them, and my wife went and named all of them. And we'll eat the ones with names just the same because bacon is delicious, and the vegans could fight me on this, but they didn't get enough protein, so it's not going to be difficult. But that's the unfortunate reality of having a farm. Occasionally animals pass away, and sometimes you got to facilitate it. Do what you got to do, process it. I've had to do it a couple times, and I still hate it. Well, that doesn't mean it doesn't need done. So anyway, that's my perspective on putting down animals. I'd like to do a special shout out and thank my Patreon members. Because of y'all, I am able to make videos that may not be very popular, but still I feel like kind of need to be said. Your support means the world to me, and I thank you for it. As always, I hope y'all enjoyed, and I hope you learned something. I love you. God bless. Sarah McLachlan gonna come after my ass to shoot me. It's gonna make sense why her name is Sarah McLachlan. That was dumb.